On our last episode, we talked about the external choices you can make when defining a character. Today, let's dive into what defines you as an actor, your personal character, your way of thinking. What defines you? On this episode of Casting Actors Cast.
It's time for another episode of Casting Actors Cast, insights for actors from a casting director. Here he is, your host, Jeffrey Dreisbach.
Well, hello, and welcome to today's episode of Casting Actors Cast. I'm casting partner Jeffrey Dreisbach with the McCorkle Group in New York City. How are you? I hope you're having a good day. I'm having a good day, and I'm really excited to share part 2 of our 2-part series on defining a character. But first, this is that moment of the podcast where I get to say, hey, gosh, thank you so much for tuning into Casting Actors Cast. We've been doing this podcast for, almost 4 years now. And in that time, we've received about 100,000 downloads of the podcast, so I couldn't be more helpful. So welcome aboard if you're just joining us, or if you're a longtime friend, really glad that you're here as well. Hey, listen, if you haven't done so already, please check out the website, castingactorscast, all one word.com. There you're going to find some interesting stuff. You're going to be able to see some past episodes, you'll see some video stuff, but there's a form right there on the landing page that says, dive into the talent pool. And when you do that, that opens up a couple of freebies for you, 100% free. I'm not selling you anything, I promise. But I wrote a book on doing voiceover work called Conversation Pieces Out of the Studio. The voiceover workshop for professional actors. It's a 100-page PDF. I'm giving it away just for free, just for being a listener and giving me your name and your email. By the way, I don't do anything with that. I can promise you I might on occasion talk about an upcoming episode or something like that, but those are very rare. I just don't have, I wish I did, by the way. You know what? I just don't seem to have the time to do all the social media stuff that a lot of podcasters do. I've got a LinkedIn page and I've got a Facebook. I've got all the socials, but I'm just not able to keep up with it. Call me lazy, more like call me busy. That's really what it's about. So if you do go to the landing page, you're going to get that free book. You can download it as a PDF. You can look it on it as your reader. Additionally, there's a video that I put together. It's a 20-minute video. It's a couple of years old, but it still works. It's called Casting Secrets, What They Don't Tell You. And I'm going to tell you what those casting secrets are in this free video. All of that to say, listen, thanks for being part of this family of listeners. I'm getting all kinds of wonderful emails and messages from folks. And I'm not kidding you, from around the world. It's been a really cool thing to get like email messages from Australia and Sweden and Germany and California, although, that's relatively close, comparatively speaking. And so it's been really, really cool. And I will continue to do these podcasts as long as I hear back. As long as I know that there are listeners out there who are enjoying the content that I'm providing, then I'm going to keep on doing it. But I do need to hear from you. So there we are. That's all my promotional stuff I have for today. So let's jump into this, shall we? Really, what defines a character that you are playing has a lot to do with what defines you. And having insight into what makes you, you is really helpful as an actor. See, the qualities that make up your personality, your emotional well-being, your physicality, your physical characteristics are all part of the process when you are working on a role. Here's my disclaimer. This is not a podcast on psychology. It's not a podcast about depression or any behavioral science issues. Listen closely. I am not qualified. I've had a lot of cool life experience. That's true, but I am not qualified as a practitioner, and I don't even want to go there at all. But this is about looking at who you are and then finding the similarities between you and who you are playing when acting. So that's the premise of today's show. Once you are aware of these qualities that you find in yourself and that you can identify with, and you can then be confident in what you know and what you know to play. All right, so let's take a look at a few of these. One is your personality, and there are some really interesting things that I think a lot of actors don't do, or if they've done, they've treated it like it was an assignment from years ago or something. This is a fresh start here, and that's what I'm asking you to consider. One, asking others to define you with 3 personality traits that come to mind. So here's the deal. It's important that a best friend, maybe an acquaintance that you know well. I would stay away from family members just because, you know, all of our mothers will say nice things about us, and that's great. I love you, Mom. But you know what? The reality is if you can just be frank with somebody saying, I'm doing a project, I really would love to know what 3 personality traits come to mind when you think of me. Now, I know it might be uncomfortable asking, but really pay attention to what comes back, because you're only asking for 3 traits. And what's interesting about that is if there are similarities in those traits, you know that's a bankable quality that you're showing. It's how you are being perceived by others. That's really important information for an actor to know. And that's why I would love for you to find out more about how your personality is being viewed by those others. Now, also in personality, here's number 2. List what you like about your personality. Now, listen, I want you to be kind. What do you like about who you are? What works for you? What kind of a personality do you feel you have in terms of either relating to others or be kind to yourself, but what do you see as a negative? What are your personality traits that you go, you know what, that's kind of maybe a character defect of mine, I don't know, but this is something I would love to kind of change. I would like to see applied in a different way. So list what you like about your personality and what you see as negative. Literally write it down. There's just something so healthy about writing these things down that you're going to find it to be potentially life-changing. I promise you, I've done it many times. Now, number 3, in terms of personality, write down the characters you see yourself playing because of their personality. You know, if you're binging something, you're watching a movie, you're watching a television show, and you say to yourself, you know what, I could play that part. That's a part that part would suit me. Write down those characters. Write down the characters you see yourself playing based on their personality. I'm not necessarily talking about the way they look. I'm not necessarily talking about their physicality, but I am talking about just their energy, their presence, their sense of self. Is it relatable to you? And is that what is drawing you to them? Again, writing those characters down are really, really useful. Why? Well, because you might start seeing similarities in breakdowns that are asking for the similar qualities. And so not only in an intellectual way, you feel gratified because you have more application to those breakdowns, but also it's rewarding because you start putting a picture together of who you are. Now let's move on from there. And let's just talk about emotional well-being. In last week's episode, I asked you to rate the emotional track of all of those characteristics of the character you're playing. Now I'm, in a similar way, asking you to evaluate your own emotional well-being. Now, how would you describe your emotional capacity when dealing with others? Are you somebody who's congenial? Are you somebody who is friendly, who is an open-faced sandwich? Or are you somebody who's a little more guarded? Perhaps you're a little more reserved. Perhaps you withhold judgment. Perhaps your inner voice is keeping you from making the choices that are potentially not keeping you safe. So how would you describe your emotional capacity when dealing with others? Are you generous of spirit or not? If you're not, that's okay. Again, this is a no judgment question I'm asking. This is literally about observing yourself in any given social situation with others. Moving on from there, what circumstances do you experience joy? Just think about the last time you were super happy. Something really cool happened, something that made you just feel great. Now, I know it's been tough. There might not be a lot of that going around, but I tell you, it's important to take a look at it. What were the circumstances that made you feel that kind of joy? I can share my own personal experiences is that Pat and I were lucky enough to be able to do some work on this log cabin we purchased a year ago. And I love being the handyman. I love going out. I've got my hammer. I've got the tool belt. I look cool anyway, but no, I'm pretty good at that handyman's kinds of stuff. But I put in all new balusters on the deck of this lake house that we are blessed to have. And you know what? It turned out so well. I can't describe the feeling, but it was a task that I just put my mind to. And, I didn't have the usual mess ups that I usually have. I didn't hit my hand with a hammer. But when it was finished, I really had this sense of just pure joy. Like, wow, look at that. And I'm not talking about ego gratifying. I didn't go, oh man, I'm the coolest. But I did go, you know what? This just makes me feel so good because it turned out so well. That would have been my circumstance that I would have mentioned. So what circumstance do you experience joy? Number 3, under what conditions do you experience frustration? Yeah. What frustrates you? What just drives you crazy? What are those conditions? And take a look at it from an objective point of view. What is a triggering device? What happened in those situations that just made you go right into that frustrated place? It can be anything from, backing into another person at a parking lot. It can be perhaps a boss or somebody that you work with that's not communicating the way that you need it to be communicated. Whatever it is, take a look at those because these are also insights into what is triggering you to go to that frustrated place. Again, I am not a psychologist here. The benefit of being and observing yourself in these situations only goes to helping you understand your own personality. Now, let's move on from that to the third category, which are physical traits. I know, suddenly everyone's slightly triggered because I talk about physicality stuff. Again, this is not a judgment zone. This is simply quietly taking a look about the way you look. What do you like about the way you look? And it's okay. You don't have to sort of share this with anybody, but in your quiet moments, you say, you know what? I really appreciate that fill in the blanks. As it relates to your physical traits, what do you like about the way you look? It's not meant to just make you feel anything, but just be objective. Just take a look at it and embrace that quality. Next step, number 2. what change would you like to implement about your physical self? You know, all of us feel like there's something that we could make better, that we wish we could fix, that we're too tall or too short or too fat or too thin or whatever. And this is not about body shaming at all, but this is about we all have a something that we wish we could change about the way we look. I believe that to be true. I might be wrong. I'm sure that I just don't know any. But I haven't met anybody who said, I am perfect in every way and there's nothing I would want to change about myself physically. Well, you know, I think the nature of our society is that we are always looking for ways to improve ourselves, and your physical self is one of those things also. Number 3, on a scale of 1 to 10, how hard are you on yourself with the way you look? So maybe even this subject today is triggering for you. How are you beating yourself up? And how hard are you on a scale of 1 to 10? 10 being, I am beating myself up mercilessly and I annihilate myself when I think about these things. Or on the one side, it would be, you know what? I haven't really spent any time thinking about this. It's not really... I'm not that hard on myself. I'm sort of just accepting, and the acceptance that I have is not really affecting me in my thought process about who I am. Now, that's awesome. That would be great. But I suspect, and again, this is just a guess on my part, that maybe you're somewhere in the middle of that. Maybe you're hard on yourself about certain things and you're less hard on yourself about other things. All of that is just meant to increase your awareness of your personality. That's the whole point. That's what this is all about. So that means that if you are able, discovering qualities that make up who you are, they can be really useful. That can be really useful information. It's also really useful information for the way you might play a role. How? Your uniqueness is applicable to the character you will be asked to play. So when you kindly, I use that word kindly on purpose, but when you kindly develop understanding of your dynamic range of who you are, you can embrace or you can diminish those same traits for how you play the role. Now listen, be careful not to overwork this. You need to treat yourself well with love and respect first. That's the only way that you're going to experience the real benefit of defining your character. So now as we wrap up these 2 episodes, the first one were those external things to look at when you get a role to play and what you work on, mental, physical, emotional. Now combining that with who you are as a person, how those two can mesh, how those two can coalesce. Ooh, good word, coalesce. I love that. That really is a strengthening and a confidence building exercise that you will not regret. It's also providing some structure in the way you work on roles. And that, my friends, is something that will make a difference in your work. If you had a good time with this episode, if you got anything out of it or the last episode, please let me know at Jeffrey Dreisbach. Sorry, wrong. At castingactorscast@gmail.com. Or you can go to the website and leave me a note on that landing page that says dive into the talent pool. It would be great to hear from you. I'd love to know what your experience is. And on future episodes, I would love to read some of your responses to these 2 episodes in an upcoming episode. Also, ladies and gentlemen, feel free to show me your demos. Show me your self-tapes. If you want your self-tape to be evaluated live on the air, I'm researching that choice. You can send it to me, castingactorscast@gmail.com. And if I choose your video, I'm going to do a live critique of your self-tape on an upcoming episode as well. So there's a lot to get to. You know what? Sometimes I feel like I'm only just getting started. I'm Jeffrey Dreisbach. This is Casting Actors Cast.
Please don't forget to review, like, and share Casting Actors Cast wherever you get your podcast videos. Thanks. I'm Megan Grace Martinez.